We start with the periodic trend that is observed with respect to atomic size in period. We have selected period number 3 as example. Here in this table you can see elements written from period number 3, that is sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine. The period even tells you about the atomic numbers 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17, which is followed by their electronic configuration. That is first one, that is sodium, has electronic configuration 281, magnesium 282, aluminium 283, etc. In the next row you can see atomic radius, which is given in picometers. For sodium 190, magnesium 160, aluminium 143, silicon 132, phosphorus 128, sulfur 127 and chlorine 99. Thus what is observed here is that the atomic radius goes on decreasing as we move from left to right in a period. Lastly, you can even see some circles with symbols written inside them. Now let us understand the periodic trend of atomic size in a period. We find that the atomic number of the element goes on increasing by 1 as we move from left to right. That is sodium 11, magnesium 12, aluminium 13, silicon 14, phosphorus 15, sulfur 16 and chlorine 17. So 11 to 17 are the atomic numbers which are increasing from left to right. We even find that the electronic configuration, the number of electrons in the valence shell also increases by 1 as we move from left to right. 1 for sodium, 2 for magnesium, 3 for aluminium, 4 for silicon, 5 for phosphorus, 6 for sulfur and 7 for chlorine. So as the number of electrons in the valence shell increase by 1, so does the number of positive charges inside the nucleus of the atom. So what is observed is that as the positive charge inside the nucleus goes on increasing, it exerts more and more force so as to hold the electrons in the valence shell. You have studied various types of forces, like you have studied gravitational force, magnetic force, frictional force. Similarly, we have even nuclear force. Gravitational force is considered to be a very long range force because its effect can be seen at several kilometers distance away from us also. But it is considered to be the weakest force. On contrary, nuclear force is a force which is exerted by the nucleons towards the electrons. So, nuclear force is considered to be the strongest force, but it is a very short range force. The range is very small. So, as the atomic number goes on increasing, we find that the nucleus exerts more and more force to hold on to the extra electrons that are going on adding to the valence shell of elements. And as this force goes on increasing from left to right, we find that the size of the atom goes on decreasing. So what we have observed here is that the increased nuclear charge, that is the number of positive charge inside the nucleus, goes on increasing. The electrons are pulled towards the nucleus to a greater extent, and thereby the size of the atom goes on decreasing. The nucleus of sodium has to hold only one electron in the valence shell, and hence its size is going to be maximum 190 picometers, and you can see that the circle is the biggest. The nucleus of magnesium has to hold two electrons. and hence the force is more and the size becomes a little smaller than sodium. This trend is observed as we move from left to right. The smallest being chlorine, because there are 7 electrons in the valence shell and the nucleus has to exert a lot of force for holding those 7 electrons in the valence shell, and so the size becomes smaller. So this is the trend that is observed in case of atomic size in period. We have selected period number 3, but this trend is observed in all periods. Now let us see the periodic trend in group. Let us now look into the atomic size in case of a group. The group that is selected is group 17, that is of halogens: fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. We find that the atomic size for fluorine is 72, chlorine 99, bromine 114 and iodine 133. The values tell us that the size of the atom goes on increasing as we move from top to bottom in any group. Now, the number of electrons in the valence shell of each of these elements is 7. What is different is the number of shells. Fluorine has 2 shells, chlorine 3, bromine 4 and iodine has 5 shells. As the number of shells goes on increasing, we find that the nucleus finds it difficult to hold on to the electrons in the outermost shell. As said earlier, the nuclear force is a short range force, though it is a very strong force, but its range is very small. Hence, we find that as the distance from the nucleus goes on increasing, the force becomes weaker. Though we find that the atomic number is increasing, fluorine has 9, chlorine 17, bromine 35 and iodine 53, still we will find that as we move down a group, as the number of shells are added, this brings the electrons in the outermost shell farther from the nucleus, and hence the size of the atom goes on increasing. So what trend do we find in a group? That is, as we move from top to bottom in a group, as a new shell is added, the distance between the outermost electron and the nucleus goes on increasing, and so does the size of the atom also goes on increasing. So we have studied 2 trends, that is valency, and the second one is atomic size. The last one is metallic and non-metallic properties. Coming to the last property of metallic and non-metallic character. In this table we can see ionic compounds in the last column. Children, you have studied how ionic compounds are formed. To just recapitulate, ionic compounds are formed due to the combination of metals and non-metals. They can even be said to be formed by loss and gain of electrons. Here we have 3 examples. The last column has examples of ionic compounds like NaCl, magnesium oxide and aluminium chloride. Each of them has a metal and a non-metal. For example, here we have sodium, magnesium, aluminium as metals and chlorine and oxygen as non-metals. Now, how are these compounds formed? Coming to the first column, elements are given: sodium, magnesium, aluminium, chlorine and oxygen along with their atomic numbers and their electronic configurations. Looking at the metals, we find that they have either 1, 2 or 3 electrons in their valence shell, that is the outermost shell. Sodium has 1 electron, magnesium has 2 and aluminium has 3 electrons in the valence shell. In order to complete octet, these 3 elements require 7, 6 and 5 electrons respectively. Sodium requires 7, magnesium requires 6, whereas aluminium requires 5 electrons to complete octet. It is not possible for any element to lose so many electrons, but on the contrary, it is easy for sodium, magnesium and aluminium to lose their 1, 2 and 3 electrons from the valence shell and acquire the electronic configuration of neon and become stable. Hence, these three have a tendency of losing electrons. But when they lose their electrons, the negative charge over them decreases and so many units of positive charge over them increases. Atom as a whole is electrically neutral because it has equal number of protons and electrons. But when an atom loses an electron or electrons, so many number of positive charge over it increases. Sodium loses 1 electron and hence it develops 1 unit positive charge, which can be seen in the second column, and it becomes a cation or a positively charged ion. Magnesium loses 2 electrons and becomes Mg2+. Aluminium loses 3 electrons and becomes Al3+. Positively charged ions are called as cations. Since metals have 1, 2 or 3 electrons in their valence shell, they have a tendency of losing electrons and becoming positively charged cations. Hence, metals are said to be electropositive. Looking at the electronic configurations of non-metals, here in this case chlorine and oxygen have got 7 and 6 electrons in their valence shell. They need only 1 and 2 electrons respectively to complete their octet. So, if sodium is donating 1 electron, chlorine accepts that 1 electron and becomes negatively charged anion. Third column you can see this, and it becomes negatively charged Cl1 minus, because now the negative charge over it has increased by 1. Same way, oxygen gains 2 electrons from magnesium and becomes O2 minus, because over it has accepted 2 electrons and so 2 unit negative charge over it has increased, and so it develops 2 unit negative charge O2 minus. Similarly, again in the third example we have chlorine, but aluminium has 3 electrons. Each chlorine atom needs only 1 electron. So, there will be 3 chloride ions that will be formed. Aluminium atom will donate 3 electrons to 3 chlorine atoms, which on accept becomes chloride ions, and hence the formula we have AlCl3. If we look into another example of a period like second period, we find that there are non-metals like nitrogen, which has got 5 electrons in the valence shell, oxygen has 6 and chlorine has 7. So in general, non-metals have either 5, 6 or 7 electrons in their valence shell. Phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine, which are again non-metals in the third period, have 5, 6 and 7 electrons in their valence shell. So, these non-metals have a tendency of accepting electrons and developing negative charge over them and becoming negatively charged ions called anions, and hence they are said to be electronegative. So, now we come to the conclusion that metals having 1, 2 or 3 electrons in their valence shell donate electrons and become electropositive, whereas non-metals have 5, 6 or 7 electrons and hence they gain electrons and become electronegative. So from this particular slide we can even conclude that why metals have a tendency of donating electrons. And why non-metals have tendency of accepting electrons? So the entire thing lies in the atomic number. We find that the atomic number of metals is lesser as compared to those of non-metals. Here itself we have examples like sodium has atomic number 11, whereas that of fluorine is 17. Moreover, if you look into the orbital diagrams, you will find that sodium atom has 2 electrons in K shell, 8 electrons in the L shell, and 1 electron in the M shell. So these 2 and 8 electrons in the K and L shell are said to be shielding electrons. What happens is that the nucleus exerts a force of attraction on the electrons, but due to presence of these shielding electrons, it so happens that the nuclear force over the last electron is less. That is why metals have got tendency of donating electrons. On contrary, non-metals have greater atomic numbers. Here we have fluorine as example, 17. So the nuclear force is strong enough due to the higher atomic number, and so the size of the atom also is small, and we find that the nuclear force is strong enough to hold those electrons tightly. So from this I hope it is clear that why metals are electropositive and why non-metals are electronegative. So there are 2-3 reasons. To end this slide, I would just say that there are 2 to 3 reasons for metals being electropositive. One is less atomic number as compared to non-metals. Second, presence of electrons in K and the L shell, that is shielding electrons. And third reason, that is lesser number of electrons in the valence shell. So that makes them electropositive. So from this slide we have studied about the periodic property of metallic and non-metallic character of metals and non-metals. The next thing that we are going to study is the periodic trend in metallic character of elements belonging to the same group. Now here we have taken group 1 with lithium, sodium and potassium as metals. All 3 belong to the same group, have same number of valence electrons, but they belong to different periods and hence they have different number of shells. As we go down, we find that the number of shells goes on increasing. The nuclear force with which lithium is holding its 1 valence electron is highest because there are only 2 shells. So nuclear force is enough to hold the 1 electron. But as we move down, we come across sodium. Here there are 8 more electrons which are acting as shielding electrons. So as compared to lithium, sodium's nuclear force to hold that 1 extra electron in the valence shell is comparatively less. In case of potassium, there are 4 shells. So the nuclear force with which the 1 extra electron is held in the valence shell is still less. So from this we come to know that as we go down the group, the size of the atom goes on increasing due to the extra shells that are added, and the electron in the valence shell is not tightly held. As that electron is very loosely held, it can be easily lost in a chemical reaction. So accordingly, potassium's tendency to lose that 1 electron will be highest as compared to sodium and lithium. Thus, as we move down the group, we find that the metallic character goes on increasing as the electrons are easily lost. We have already studied that metallic character or electropositivity is the tendency of the metals to lose electrons. So here we find that in group, in case of metals, as we move down, the metallic character goes on increasing, or we can even say that the reactivity goes on increasing. So we find that this is the case in groups, that is, the reactivity of elements goes on increasing. In the next slide, you will even see that when one electron from the valence shell is lost, the previous shell becomes the last shell. For example, in case of sodium, if one electron is lost, the L shell becomes the last shell. This shell is called as the penultimate shell. We have already studied that the outermost shell is called valence shell. It is also called as ultimate shell. But when this one electron from the valence or the ultimate shell is lost, the previous shell, that is called as the penultimate shell, becomes the last shell. It is more stable because it has got the electronic configuration to the nearest inert gas. Here in case it is neon 2,8. So it gives extra stability to the atom. So this is what is the case that we find in metals down the group, that is the reactivity goes on increasing. Here in this slide you can see the orbital diagram of sodium with the three shells K, L and M. Here the M shell is the last shell, which is also the valence or the ultimate shell with one electron. Then we have the L shell, which is called as the penultimate shell with 8 electrons. And the innermost shell is called as anti-penultimate shell. I hope you have understood that what happens as we move down in a group, how the metallic character goes on increasing. So if we take the example of sodium, sodium will lose its one electron from the valence shell so that it acquires the electronic configuration of neon, and the penultimate shell becomes the last shell, which imparts it stability. So if we take the example of lithium, sodium and potassium, potassium will be the most metallic element because it has maximum number of shells, and so its tendency to lose its one electron is maximum. We can even say that potassium is having the highest reactivity because its tendency is highest to lose one electron and become stable. And hence, if we take example of group 1, potassium is highly metallic, then sodium, and lastly lithium. So reactivity goes on increasing, or metallic character goes on increasing as we move from top to bottom in case of metals. What we have just now studied is how the reactivity of metals goes on increasing down the group has been shown here with an example of group 2 metals. Group 2 comprises of beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium and barium. Now here we find again that the reactivity goes on increasing as we move from top to bottom, that is beryllium is the least reactive and barium is the highly reactive metal in this group. This has been shown with an example of reaction of each metal with water. At the top you can see one chemical reaction. Here we have M. M is the metal, any metal, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium and barium, reacting with water, and they give rise to their corresponding hydroxides along with the release of hydrogen gas. So if we take into account beryllium, beryllium does not react with water. Then if we take magnesium, magnesium reacts with steam. So you need to increase the temperature of water if you want to make magnesium react with steam, whereas calcium, strontium and barium are such that they react with water at room temperature. Cold water is sufficient for them to react and give rise to their corresponding hydroxide. So we find that as we move down the reactivity of metals, Here in case alkaline earth metals group 2 goes on increasing. So for calcium, strontium and barium you need not even require hot water, but you need only water at room temperature, which is sufficient for it to react and give rise to their products. So here it becomes evident that reactivity of metals goes on increasing as we move down the group. Now that we have seen the periodic trend in metallic character of elements in a group, let us see what trend is observed in a period. Here we have taken period number 3 with sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine. Now here in period the number of shells are constant, that is 3, but the number of electrons in the valence shell are increasing because the atomic number is increasing. As the atomic number increases, the nuclear charge also increases. As the nuclear charge or the atomic number increases, the force with which the electrons in the valence shell are held also increases. So now the electrons in the valence shell are held more and more tightly as we move from left to right. As a result, we find that the metallic character goes on decreasing or the non-metallic character goes on increasing. The first 3 are metals, sodium, magnesium and aluminium. They have 1, 2 or 3 electrons. They lose those, we have already seen them, and they acquire the electronic configuration to the nearest inert gas. Then we have silicon, which is a metalloid. We will not talk about it. We will talk about the remaining 3 non-metals which have 5, 6 and 7 electrons in the valence shell. Now these 3, the electrons are held very tightly, and hence the tendency of losing electrons decreases and accepting electrons increases, and these 3 form anions, that is negatively charged ions, or they are going to have the property of electronegativity. So electrons in the valence shell of phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine are held tightly, and we find that the non-metallic character goes on increasing and the metallic character goes on decreasing as we move from left to right in a period. So this particular trend that we are observing is on account of 2 main factors. One is the nuclear charge which goes on increasing, and secondly the decreasing atomic radius. As the electrons are held tightly, the radius goes on decreasing or the atomic size goes on decreasing. So these 2 factors, that is increasing nuclear charge and decreasing atomic radius from left to right within a period, are responsible for this trend that we observe. So with this we come to the end of what we find the periodic trend in metallic character of elements belonging to the same period. Lastly, let us see the periodic trend in the non-metallic character of elements belonging to same group. Here we have taken the halogen group or the group 17 of the periodic table, that is fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. Here as we move down the group, the number of electrons in the valence shell remains same, but the number of shells go on added up. Accordingly, fluorine has only 2, chlorine has 3, bromine 4 and iodine 5 shells. Thus, as we move down, we find that for an atom, it becomes difficult to hold the number of electrons in the valence shell due to increasing number of electrons in the inner shells, or due to the shielding electrons present in the inner shells. So as we move down, we find that the reactivity of non-metals goes on decreasing. Let us understand this with the help of the group 17 elements. Fluorine has only two shells. It requires one electron to acquire the electronic configuration of neon and become stable. So its reactivity or non-metallic character or electronegativity to attract one electron from outside and become stable will be highest, because there are just two shells. Nuclear force is strong enough. Atomic size is smallest. So it's easy for fluorine to attract one electron from outside and acquire the electronic configuration to the inert gas and become stable. So its reactivity is highest. If we take example of iodine, it has 5 shells. So the nuclear force that is going to be exerted upon the electrons in the valence shell is going to be least. It is holding its inner electrons with lot of force. It is requiring lot of force to hold on to its electrons in the inner shell. So the force with which these 7 electrons are held in the outermost shell is the least. So for iodine, it is very difficult to attract one electron from outside and become stable. So accordingly, the reactivity for iodine is least. In other words, reactivity means to attract an electron from outside and become stable. The property to lose or gain electrons decides the reactivity of an element. So here for iodine it is very difficult because it is already holding lot of electrons, and to attract electron from outside and become stable is difficult. So as we move down the group, we find that the reactivity in case of non-metals goes on decreasing, or the non-metallic character goes on decreasing. Non-metallic character, that is to attract an electron from outside and become stable. So this is what is the trend that is observed in the periodic table. Here one more trend that we have already discussed in the previous slide, but we would just revise it once again. That is gradation in the halogen family. Gradation, that is gradual change. Though they all have 7 electrons, their chemical properties are similar, but then there are certain factors, physical properties we can say, that are different. We find that fluorine and chlorine both are gases. Bromine is a liquid, whereas iodine is a solid. So this is what is the gradation or gradual change in physical properties that we find in case of elements as we move down the group. So with this we come to the end of the lesson. We have completed all topics that are given in the textbook. You can go through the chapter, you can read the lesson, and you can just read, and if you have any difficulty you can go through the slides once again and you can rectify your doubts. So for now we are going to stop with this lesson. In the next presentation you will find the question answers being discussed. You can mark the answers in your textbooks. Those answers which are to be dictated will be given after we resume back to school, but most of them will be in the textbook, so you can mark it and then you can start writing down these answers in your notebooks. Your homework will be to read the lesson this week, and thoroughly you have to read the lesson, and you will hopefully understand all the topics. In next few slides you will be finding some extra information about this chapter. This is completely extra information, so need not bother about it. It is only for increasing your knowledge, and so the remaining slides that you will find in the next class will be additional information. Okay, thank you till then.